have finally made it to the last final week of the format and things are wrapping up. That being said, we're gonna be moving into the same format basically because the next pack isn't really gonna be offering new cards. It's gonna be a bunch of reprints and the metagame is gonna be the same, so this tier list is gonna be very valid for the next format coming up. So just basically we're gonna go over what's happened with every single deck and what placement I think they deserve to be in, and seeing a bunch of tournament reports, seeing a bunch of people playing, top players playing, and just like experiencing it for myself. I'm gonna go over every single deck from this format on a tier list. Let's go. So starting off, I want to talk about Espeon EX. So Espeon EX used to be a dominant force in the metagame, in Master Ball, and in tournaments. But in this format, I feel like it's too slow. Other decks just outspeed it. I mean, just Espeon EX feels like a very fair deck in this format. It has trouble against Suicune because it takes advantage of, of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So you can't really rely on just spamming out your EVs to set up for Sylveon and to draw like half your deck. You get punished for that even if you have your double Espeon setup, because the healing really isn't gonna matter once they have Greninja and a stacked up, Suicune attacking you for 120 potentially. The deck is alright against Darktina, has a bad matchup against Guzzlord, which is seeing a lot of popularity. Also has a great matchup against Decidueye and Flareon EX, but the only problem with the Decidueye matchup is it's not a very popular deck. Yes, it has very successful tournament runs within the last couple of weeks, but it's not popular on the ladder from what I've seen. And that being said, I feel like Espeon belongs in the B tier for now. The next deck I want to bring up is Guzzlord EX. Guzzlord EX has been seeing a lot of success near the end of this format. Like, the deck is really good. It wasn't popular on the ladder at all, and that being said, it's seeing success right now. It has a very good matchup against Guzzlord, Silvally, which are very popular decks. There are a lot of people that refuse to play Suicune and Darktina, so having Guzzlord out there is a really good option. And not only that, you have cards access to like Lucamine for Mosa to attack the back row, playing double Cyrus, in order to push for a game. Guzzlord EX is just an overall strong, solid deck, but I think it also falls in the category where it's kind of fair. Like, it's an okay deck unless your opponent starts bricking a lot. That's where you start outspeeding your opponent. But for right now, I feel like it's a very okay deck to run, and I'll place it in the B tier. I could see it maybe potentially moving up to A tier if more people start picking it up in the next format. We're gonna be playing the same format next month, so it only has potential to go up. But for now, I think B is a very solid position to put it in. The next deck I want to talk about is everybody's favorite. We got Flareon EX. Flareon EX is a very strong deck. What can I say? 130 is amazing. This deck is playing double red, has successful tournament runs, ladder runs. Almost every top player is streaking with this deck on the ladder. It has a very good matchup against Darktina. Darktina is very popular, and just putting high numbers and ending the game as soon as possible is very strong. It could take out things like Suicune in one sweep as well by the time they only have like 2 energies. So I feel like this deck also does good against the baby deck, which plays Arceus and Darkrai, because they're putting up 140 HP, and it's just like you have access to EV bags as well to your double red, so you have 4 win conditions. If you strike down one of their Pokemon they have been heavily investing to. That being said, for its big win streak potential, I'd say it's a very strong A contender. It's an amazing deck. The only problem I'd say the deck has is consistency issues, basically being the brand new Charizard EX. It is what it is. Alright, we're gonna go into Umbreon EX. This is another fan favorite. This deck right here has been seeing a lot of popularity since the middle of the format because it has shocked everybody once it started topping in tournaments, and as well, it's a very strong deck if you start off playing the regular Umbreon. Regular Umbreon just makes it so your opponent cannot attack with their basic Pokemon for 1 energy and 40 damage. Not only that, you play cards like Darkrai to start dealing 20 damage plus 40. That's insane for 1 energy. Umbreon is just overall a strong pick against decks like Decidueye, Darkrai, Darktina, Suicune every now and then, because like they rely on their basic to attack. Any deck that relies on their basic is pretty good, but I find the only problem with this deck is the retreat cost for Umbreon. Both Umbreons are pretty high. You need a 2 retreat cost, and by then you could really be using those energies somewhere else effectively, like giving it to your Darkrai. I think it just suffers from that, and also you have to hard draw your secondary evolutions, your Umbreons, and you're not always guaranteed to get the Umbreon you need at the moment, because if you just start off with the EX Umbreon, it's not very good early game. You'd have to put them in a situation where they would want to retreat, and by that time they either accepted the Pokemon is gonna get knocked out, or they have kill condition in the back row in order to, you know, take away the threat on the field. So I don't think it's that strong. I would put it in C tier. I would say it's one of those decks where you get lucky, right? You have the card, but it's a very viable deck for the format. Alright, let's talk about Decidueye EX. Decidueye EX is one of those decks also that came out of nowhere, probably like within the last week, and started topping in tournaments. Like, the deck does insanely well against Suicune, Giratina, Darkrai, but that being said, it's just like a deck that once you set up your Decidueye, your opponent's gonna have a really tough time getting rid of it. The only reason you play double Erika, you play double Lily, and you play double Leaf Cape. That being said, it's just never dying, and you play 4 Owls, 4 Decidueyes, and just having that viability where you could just like rare candy and evolve to anything is pretty good. You only play the 2 Rowlets, which is kind of insane, but you know, in that type of build, all you need is 1 Pokeball, because you're already guaranteeing one of the Rowlets, and you have the potential to snipe your opponent's back row and all the Giratinas in the back row, or anything they're, you know, building in the back row. So it's a very solid deck. It's one of those decks where it's really strong once you have anything, and if you brick, you know, you brick. But I would put it in the B tier, honestly, because it has a very strong win rate, you know, against most of the popular decks and even the best decks. This deck can only just get better within the next format. I have high hopes for the deck, and hopefully we see better results. Let's get into Dragonite EX. Dragonite EX is a really strong deck. Like, once you hit that with Lyra and all your baby Pokemon, you know, swinging for 180 is insane, crazy work. And just overall, the deck is amazing, and you can't really, once you set up all the energy requirements, the deck just blows up, and it's really hard to stop, because Dragonite EX has a very strong HP, has a very strong attack. It's just like never leaving the field unless you have a full power Giratina or a full power, you know, Pikachu EX, you know, something insane. Not only that, it has a good matchup against Guzzlord and almost anything. Once you get that 180, is like, who's gonna stop him? Like, who's gonna stop Dragonite EX? But it suffers from consistency issues. That's my only problem with the deck is you either run, you know, one or the other energy and rely on the baby Pokemon in order to fuel the other. I've seen other people mix in the energies, have water and electric, and then play, you know, one of each, and then have Clef for, like, you know, to search the Pokemon to make your hand a little more consistent. Overall, I think just because the deck feels like it has consistency issues, I'm gonna have to put it in B tier. That's the only reason I would say it's in B tier. It's a very strong deck, but like, you just have to be ready to hit the casino if, you know, you're gonna be rolling high with this. Another deck I want to talk about is Alolan Exeggutor EX. This right here, overall, is a 50-50 deck. There really isn't anything else to say about it. The deck is amazing. Really, it's just a 50-50. And the fact that you could get the 3 energies on it really fast. You have access to cards like Will, Leaf Cape, and you have HP of 150. It's like kind of insane. If you're lucky with your coin flips, this deck is a force to be reckoned with. But overall, consistency issues, I'm gonna put it in B tier. Like, it really comes down, are you lucky, you know? Next up, I want to talk about Arceus. And I'm gonna lump this in with Snorlax and Darkrai because they're all basically kind of the same decks and they achieve the same thing. They're basically like a daycare deck, right? The deck basically revolves on starting off with the baby Pokemon, accelerating its energy to either Arceus, Darkrai, or Snorlax. So basically, the deck is amazing. It's a very strong and consistent contender. You're playing a lot of Pokemon. For the Arceus version, you have, you know, double Darkrai, double Arceus, and then a bunch of baby Pokemon in order to fill out your bench, in order to attack for 130, potentially for 150 with Dark Energy going to Darkrai. And just overall, once you set up everything with Snorlax EX, you have 130 damage coming on the board and he's healing. And not to mention that you have cards like Ilima to pull him off the board and just reset the game state, you know, with your baby Pokemon and just get him back up to speed and get attacking for 130 as well. Solid streaking decks, I will say, overall. And I will personally put these 3 decks, because honestly they're kind of all the same, in the A tier. All of them are very strong decks in the meta right now, and just overall, I recommend you guys try using any variant of this deck. It's just very strong. Alright, so we're gonna talk about Alolan Raichu EX and Pikachu EX, because I feel like there's so many variants of the electric toolbox in this meta, and that being said, it's just like both Pokemon require 3 energy in order to get things started. And with the Alolan Raichu variants, you have to also play 1 extra card to evolve it, and you have to make sure your opponent is playing a lot of energy on their Pokemon. That being said, Alolan Raichu is a very strong pick if you're versing decks like Decidueye, Darktina, you know, things of that nature. Something that plays a lot of energy, and it's very situational, I guess, in the metagame right now. So Raichu EX, I would say, is very much in a C area where it's great and it has alright potential to be B tier, but I don't think in this meta you have a lot of decks that have low cost energy, and I don't think it's the right meta for Alolan Raichu. Pikachu is a very strong deck, and I would say we put it around A tier. 150 damage is amazing, and basically we're partnering it up with Raichu EX, and there's so many different variants to electric decks. You have Tapu Coco, Zeraora, Raikou in the meta. It's just like there's so much electric toolbox in this format that it's kind of everywhere, even the Magnezone variant. So I would put this Pikachu up here and treat it as a Raikou EX and Pikachu deck. And then just one of the better variants, I would say, with, you know, Raikou EX is having the Magnezone and Raikou EX. Magnezone Raikou EX puts a lot of pressure on the opponent and fixes the consistency issue with not drawing your Magnezone line, and basically just having access to, you know, thinning out your deck as fast as possible is pretty good while dealing 60 damage and 10 on the bench. And you play cards like Double Cyrus in order to take advantage of Raikou's 10 damage, and then you could just, you know, end the game at any point you want with Magnezone. Magnezone, it has always been a strong card since it came out on Pocket, so that's one thing I'd say to take to, you know, keep an eye out for. Now the one thing I want to talk about is Tapu Coco EX with Oricorio. The deck is a very solid pick. It hits fast like a truck. The deck that really has trouble with this is Suicune EX, because, you know, you're playing cards, everything that this deck was built out of hate for Suicune EX. So that being said, Tapu Coco EX with Oricorio is a solid A tier choice. Plays well against almost everything. You're playing mainly trainer cards, all the best trainer and item cards in the deck, and overall it's fast, it hits hard, and you can protect yourself with Oricorio. So, you know, there's not really that much to like say about the deck. Another fan favorite that a lot of people love is Solgaleo. Solgaleo with the elemental dogs, where you could keep drawing. It replaces Shiinotic, where you have to evolve, and it takes away that element, which is really great. And the thing is, the fact that you take away that element, you're always drawing one card, so it makes the consistency a lot better. But overall, you're dealing 120 damage. You really still have to get the rare candy, and you have to get the Cosmog, and you have to evolve. It's still very, I feel, kind of slow in this metagame, and for that reason, I think it belongs in the C tier. Yeah, it has had some premier tops, but overall on the ladder, I don't think it's really up there right now for streaking in this current meta that we're in. Talking about Charizard EX, Charizard EX was a solid pick last format, but in this format, just overall, it's kind of slow. It belongs in the D tier. You need to invest a lot of Pokemon on the bench in order to get that kick started, and I don't think you're gonna get that, you know, with Suicune being around, because you do not want Suicune attacking for 120, and if they're attacking your Charizard at full power, they're hitting you for 140, and, you know, with Greninja on the board, it's just 160, and, you know, it's not looking like a good day for Charizard. Overall, the deck was amazing. Like I said, Flareon EX replaces this deck because it's a lot stronger and faster. The name of the game is speed. We're in a type of format where everything is starting to move faster and faster, and I don't think it's it for Charizard right now. Another solid pick for the meta that I want to talk about is Guzzlord EX. So Guzzlord EX is crazy. You're only playing 2 Guzzlord EX and 1 Celesteela. The whole point of the deck is to grindcore your opponent and basically take away their energies, whether it be with Will or RNG itself. And then while you're slowing down your opponent, you're forcing them to play at your level, and basically you're putting all the energy on your Guzzlords. You have Lusamine to support the other Guzzlord on your bench. Not only that, you have cards like Rocky Helmet really boosting the deck and making every hit it makes more devastating, because most decks aren't really gonna knock this out in 2 hits. You really have to hit it like over 2 times in order to, like, you know, really be effective with this deck. And overall, it's just a strong meta pick, and I would say it's on A tier. It's a very strong streaking deck, and I would recommend people play this deck if you're having trouble in the meta on the ladder. It's very good. Yeah, people look at it as a meme deck, but at the same time, it's a very solid play into the best deck, which is Suicune EX. And that's not sugarcoating it, because that's what we're going to talk about next. Suicune EX is one of the best decks in the format right now. It's just overall has everything. It has draw power, it has Greninja, it has retreat, whether it be with Boat, Leaf, or X-Speed. It has Giratina. You just have a lot of the best cards, you know, working in synergy. You have cards like Irida for healing, and you have like everything's water energy. So it's just overall an amazing deck. It forces your opponent to consider what they want to play on the bench, and that could really mess up, you know, most of these decks game plan, such as Espeon EX or Buzzwole, you know, because Buzzwole likes to have the Celesteela in the background, likes to have the Pheromosa, likes to have the Buzzwole, you know, getting energy. You know, it relies on its allies. So, you know, most of these decks also, you know, rely on its allies, but that's why we're gonna put it in S tier. Has an overall like crazy win streaks on the ladder by everybody. It has very high dominant, you know, tournament, you know, tops and wins. So the deck is just overall the best deck, undisputed, of the format. Another card I want to talk about, Silvally variants. Silvally is a very strong deck. Silvally Zeraora definitely being the best out of all the variants, and that one I want to put in A tier. Definitely, me personally, has gotten me a lot of, you know, win streaks. It's very consistent, plays well into most decks, even into the mirror. Because of Rocky Helmet, you don't have to play cards like Giovanni when they attack with their Silvally or type no. Zeraora just having the energy just like is pretty quick and it's fast. Once you get that, you know, the engine going, it's an amazing deck. I would put it in A tier. There is other variants like Giratina and Silvally. That deck is also, I would consider it an A tier threat. The deck is also very strong because you have a bunch of psychic energy. Once you have your type no Silvally ready to attack, you could just start stacking the Giratina, and you know, the first turn you'll probably use Giratina's ability to grab an energy, and then, you know, it's very easy to build up to your 130 with, you know, having psychic energy as your main use. So that's why a lot of people are playing it on the ladder, and it also has a very respectable win rate. Next up, we have Darktina, the long deck that never wants to die in this game. It's S tier. You guys surprised? You're playing 4 of the best Pokemon and all the best trainers and item cards in the game. Do I really have to explain why it belongs in S tier? It's just a very dominant force in the metagame. And yeah, there's really not much to say about this deck. This deck is just amazing. Honorable mention, we'll say Jumpluff. Jumpluff had a lot of potential in the early format, but it got outspeeded by everything. And thus far, I would say it's D tier. It's not really seeing play. It sees play every now and then, but people just find a way to, you know, get it out on the board and just kill it. So let me know if you guys agree with my tier list. This is what I personally think. Like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Peace.